Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm Paul Shaughnessy, joined by Cody Saftic, coming off of the heels of UFC Vegas 32, where my girl, Maycee Barber, was victorious. Was she really? Was she really? I mean, there was a whole bunch of bad judging, but that was like the one that really took it. We obviously had a shoey bet on that one. A few weeks back, I was supposed to do a shoey after Tai Tuivasa. We were celebrating. We both picked him to beat Hardy, but we got so fired up watching that maniac do shoeys. I had forgotten beers. People in the comments section got mad. They're like, why is he not doing it? I forgot beers that day. So you factored that in. You factor it in with the fact that we had this shoey bet last week. And Maycee Barber, she did not win that fight. You have to do a shoey because of it.
I mean, but you had her, so I'd be campaigning that she did.
Shit, it was one of the only bets I won last week. It was a rough night at the office, but Phillips' decision, I thought that was about as clear-cut of a draw as you can ever see in MMA. So I should have got my money back on that parlay. And then Sandhagen, I thought he edged it out, but it was a close fight. So I don't feel completely robbed on that. But Maverick should have won the fight. I felt a little bit guilty about not doing the one before. Plus this card that we're gonna talk about here, I'm gonna need this to get through it. So I'm joining you in a shoey right
You're going to join me one. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, Paul.
Get it fired up. Or should I go first and then we'll go to you, or what's the deal here? I'll just
you hit one up. I'll ride the pine and fill the void while you hit that shoey. And then I'll unfortunately have to do one on my own. Total bullshit. What can I do? That's the ebbs and flows of MMA. But my God, that one just seemed very clear cut. First round, she outstrikes her on a 2-1 clip, lands the better strikes. I think everybody's in agreement that she wins the first round. Second round, I will fully admit, Maycee Barber has a better wrap, working her way back into it. Short elbows from the clinch. Okay, maybe she's getting a slight edge in the second round. She gets blast double leg onto the canvas, gives up her back, 2 hooks in, bell goes. In what world do you not win? But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm a man of my word, always. So I got to do a shoey. But I usually have a little more class. I like to drink better beer that I would prefer. However, today I'll be drinking a Kronberg Blanc. Some type of fruity beer, 4.5%. I don't mean fruity in that way. I mean, it's actually, you can see there, fruit, And why would I be drinking this beer, Paul? Because I robbed this beer, Paul. This ain't my beer. I robbed this beer from my girlfriend. The same way Maycee Barber and them goddamn judges.
The same judges that'll be judging fights on this card this week. So it's
which is a problem.
If you think any fight is very, very close and you're taking the chalk side of it, I don't know. It's a little dicey this week. All right. This shoe that I'm pouring it into is not built for a tall boy of local's finest. We got
I'm already
Alexander
spilling on
Keith's
myself.
Here.
I got an athletic shoe, and there's vents. Oh, no, the vents.
You have vents in your shoes? Oh, no. Bad selection, bud. All right.
Oh, that was a terrible selection. Oh, terrible selection. Terrible. You know what? Was another terrible selection? Was picking Maycee Barber to win that fight, man. Talk about terrible selection.
You know what, though? She fought like she did against Grasso, where she fights she's fighting very timid and stuff like that. She is at her best when she's just full blown, just like she's in a bar fight, just trying to chase you down and stalk you down and hit you. She had some moments that finally she let it go a bit, but when she's trying to fight all technical, it's just not her game. She's got to be a barroom brawler.
You know what? She did the same thing against Grasso. Exactly. Yeah. She drops the first 2 rounds, and then the third round she comes on strong. This was the same thing. She dropped the first 2 rounds, and then she came on strong in the third. The difference was they got the Grasso decision right. They got this one wrong. But again, I always say that's the glory about this game. That's the glory about this sport. We always have another opportunity to get back in the win column to rearrange the ship. Unfortunately, the UFC gives an absolute terrible offering right from the get-go. The spots that you might like, go ahead and get canceled. Half this card is a short notice replacement. Half these fights may or may not even happen. It's a lot of guys either, very young into their careers, trying to make a name for themselves, matched up with likewise same opponents. We've got a lot of style clashes in that some of these fighters are kind of one-dimensional, but what's it going to matter? And in the end, even if we had a slight edge, even if we had a slight lean, even if we slightly like this person, the judges are probably still going to screw us because these are close fights. So definitely going in with a type of mentality of like buyer beware. Like, how much do you want to stock up on some of these fighters? How much confidence do you have in these fighters? But all the same, this is what we do. We try to put some greasy parlays together. We're going to try to find the most comfortable spots, and there might only be 2 or 3, but those will be the keys. Those will be the anchors. The rest of it's just going to be fluff. But Paul, I wish I could say I was more confident in this card. And I wish I could say I had better reads on this card. I mean, I just haven't really had the time to tape study as much as I wanted to, just because you have short notice replacements. The bout orders can completely tossed around. And there's a Bellator card on this week as well. There was killer fights last weekend. I'm trying to release some more of those mixed martial madness episodes. The ball just keeps rolling. The wheel keeps turning. However, we've got 13 fights to get into, and that's exactly what we're going to do here.
Yep. So all of the odds come to you from DraftKingsSportsbook.com. Odds and lines are subject to change. See website for actual odds. If you or anybody you know has a gambling problem and needs help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Main event, we've got Sean Strickland taking on Uriah Primetime Hall. Sean Strickland, a -220 favorite. Hall can be had for +180. Cody, take it away.
Yeah, again, so I don't really love the price, but I think Sean Strickland would be your preferable play here. Does he get it done later in the fight? I don't know, but I really like the volume out of him. So since Sean Strickland left the UFC a while ago, he used to be a welterweight, a little bit big for the weight class. He did have a couple losses here and there, but he was fighting a lot of high-end guys. And then most notably, because he's fighting Uriah Hall now, his last loss happened to come from a spinning back kick from a guy in Melsik Dos Santos. But since that motorcycle crash, which took 2 years off of his career, he's unable to make 170 pounds, which is probably the good career move for him. He does have a big frame. He's moved to 185, and you see him getting comfortable in there every time out. The biggest key, though, is that he's got very strong takedown defense. He's got great volume. We haven't seen him being able to extend over 5 rounds. The way he kind of conserves himself, I feel like he should be able to go at least a hard 4 and then maybe survive for that 5th. Again, you look at the fight with Jack Marshman. That's his first fight back. He's just talking to Marshman the whole time. And they're, Jack, why won't you fall over? But you see him in real time shaking off some of that ring rust, getting his confidence going, and landing a ton of strikes. He ends up landing 106 in 15 minutes versus Jack Marshman. Falls out with the Brandon Allen fight. Paul, this fight doesn't even go. It goes 6 minutes and 32 seconds. In those 6 minutes and 32 seconds, he managed to land 94 significant strikes, a takedown, and a knockdown. Incredible numbers. And you see how good Brandon Allen's coming. He's actually undefeated since that fight with Strickland, and he's really been looking good. So all good stuff from Sean Strickland. And then he gets a bit of a step up. Not a step up. It's Krzysztof Jotko at this stage of his career is not great. But even Jotko is a difficult guy to deal with. He manages distance very well, and he loves to smother guys up against the cage. Even against that level of opponent, that type of opponent, he still goes out there and lands 84 significant strikes, almost triples up Jotko, which is in and itself a decent enough feat. Beyond him putting up results in the UFC, that's good to see. Because anybody that knows Sean Strickland, who's followed the story, who's ever trained with him, knows that in the gym, the guy's the man. Outside of him hitting Orlando Sanchez, the spinning back fist, he's just a notoriously tough sparring partner. He's tough to deal with. Everybody raves about his talent. And a lot of guys have gone on record, Sam Alvey, Dan Henderson, Chris Curtis, saying the day that the guy that fights in the gym shows up in the octagon, it's going to be a scary situation. There's very few guys that can handle him. Currently in this training camp, Extreme Couture, he's working with Khamzat Chimaev. He's working with Jake Shields on his grappling game. He's working with Alexander Gustafsson, who's been spending time down there. He's been working with the whole cast of guys. And whether or not everyone that trains with them is going to have positive results, it's just good to be in that room. So I really do see what I like out of Sean Strickland. The -220 price tag, again, he's not been to the 5th round. If his output falls off, Hall's always a dangerous opponent. Hall's cashed a lot of underdog tickets coming back, but yeah, it all comes down to volume. I think first and foremost, we can just both admit that Hall's not going to probably shoot any takedowns, but even if he was to, he's not taking down Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland might be able to shoot on Hall, but I don't think he will. What you're going to have is 2 guys strike. And whereas Strickland kind of pushes more of a pace and throws out that strikes, Hall's the polar opposite. He knows he's got magic, he knows he's got dynamite, and he knows he can land at any point. But as a result, sometimes he just doesn't go out there and let it all hang. He's also 36, 37 years old now. He waits on those moments a little bit too far in between. If you look at his run, he's on a great run right now, right? He beats Bavon Lewis. Bavon Lewis outstruck him 68-39, but he catches Bavon Lewis and knocks him out. Bavon is no longer with the UFC. He beats Antonio Carlos Jr., not exactly the prettiest fight going. Antonio Carlos Jr. is also no longer with the UFC. He beats Anderson Silva. He got outstruck in the first 2 rounds against Anderson Silva on the basis of he just not throwing anything. And then Anderson is Anderson, and Hall's able to knock him out in the 4th round. Anderson, by the way, is no longer with the promotion. And then his last fight with Chris Weidman. If Chris Weidman didn't have that name, that reputation, that former champion, he would no longer be with the promotion. And even now with the broken leg, he's got maybe one more fight. If he comes back for a comeback fight, the UFC gives him one more. If he goes out and loses that one, that's it. That's the end of the road, right? So what I'm getting at is, as far as Hall been making moves, they've really been matching him up with guys that were likewise kind of at the end of the rope or not quite there anymore. Strickland's on the rise. Strickland's on the way up. And so, again, when you go back to this is probably going to be a striker versus striker situation, Hall could catch him. He could knock him out. That's why I don't really love that 220 price tag on Strickland. But I think Strickland at least puts 3 rounds in the bank and then is able to survive. Or at some point, he's going to be able to catch Hall with something, break him down, hurt him, and put him away. And I don't think this fight quite goes the distance. If Hall was to win, I think he probably catches him, knocks him out inside the distance. If Strickland wins, I could see him extending it out. But, I mean, with the kind of volume he's putting up, Hall's not going to sit there and take all that damage, right? So tricky enough spot, fun main event. Don't get me wrong.
Point.
Yeah. And I could see myself putting Strickland on the top ticket this week, even though I don't have the utmost confidence in him, simply because he's the main event. And if I want to hedge out of that main event spot, I would have a plus 180 ticket on Uriah Hall. It would be okay to cash out. So, yeah, unfortunately, we're going to have to ride with Strickland a little more than we'd like, but I do think he gets the job done. I think it's going to be a striking match, and he'll use his volume.
Yeah, I think all the things that you said that make a bunch of sense for the most part. I mean, if all things were equal and this was a pick-em fight, I'd be siding with Strickland, but you go through the opponents that he has been taking on here, and you watch the fights, and I don't know if they've got the same level of skill, the same ability on the feet of Uriah Hall. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough betting Uriah Hall just because. But like against Anderson Silva, it's just like nothing happened in the first 2 rounds. Like there was really not much, a lot of big time feeling out process. With Strickland, it's like he's gonna be coming out of the gate. He's gonna get in your face. He's gonna be trying to get you on your back foot, and he's just gonna keep landing shots. The concern that I have for laying the wood at minus 220 on Sean Strickland is he's given up 3.5 inches of reach to Uriah Hall in this spot. We have seen him against Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, against a creative martial artist who throws spin and shit and all that crazy stuff. You know, that can happen against anybody, but Uriah Hall's one of the best people at that. In terms of like a pure money line play, it's a dog or pass spot for me here. But I just hate betting guys that just, that are going to give away 2 rounds early on. So it ended up being a pass for me, but I think the value side of this play is Uriah Hall.
Yeah, one more point that neither of us brought up. It might be a little bit interesting, not that it's going to affect anything whatsoever, but Uriah Hall had spent a number of years in Las Vegas at Extreme Couture, working with a large number of these guys that are in Strickland's corner and in Strickland's camp before leaving and going to Fortis MMA for his last couple. So as far as having guys that have worked with Hall know his style, know his tendencies, that would favor Sean Strickland. Whereas, Hall's in Fortis MMA, it's a fine gym as well. It's not like his training's got any worse. I mean, he's actually looked better since he's moved down there. But, you've got guys that are in Strickland's ear being like, oh, you know what? I used to spar the guy all the time. This is how he sets this up. And this is what I used against him that was effective. And by the way, if you are going to take him down, yeah, this is what he's going to do. He's going to try to roll the one hip, grab his Kimura, create space, get up against the cage, just suck his leg right out. Like, you'll probably have a little more insider information. But again, all that shit's just narrative stuff.
For sure.
Once the cage door closes and a flying knee comes out of Hall or a spinning hook kick or something crazy, it's not going to matter, I guess.
Yeah. All right. We got Kyung Ho Kang taking on Hani Yahya, minus 135 Kang. Yahya can be had for plus 115. There's like a 7-8 inch reach advantage here. I think it's like 66 to like 73. I mean, Yahya's got to get this fight to the mat, and probably very early. Kyung Ho Kang has a great jab that you see featured in pretty much all of his fights, but the guy fights like all of his fights end up being really, really razor close. At the end of the day, yeah, it's like Yahya's got to get this fight to the mat. And Kang's no slouch on the mat, but Yahya's on a different level. I'm worried about Kang, big time layoff. Well, he was doing military service, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, originally, but I mean, he's already come back from that. It said he's been with the promotion for 8 years and he's had 9 fights.
Yeah. I'm just worried about, the long layoff. The guy has a propensity to be in very, very close fights. Yahya's got to get it to the ground, but what I see on tape, like Kang should be able to just land his jab at will on Yahya, and as long as he can circle out, he should win. So my pick is Kang, but I haven't bet anything yet. What's your take here?
Yeah, this is just another dicey fight. I mean, by the way, I'm at least glad that they moved this to the co-main event because originally it was slotted as Cheyanne buys versus Paula, and it's like, don't do me dirty like this, man. Don't at least have a little respect. So Rani, Yahya, at least he's paid his dues. This is a fun fight. It's just hard to get a great read on it. You managed with Mr. Perfect, Kang. There was a point where I thought that Kang would have been pretty legit, man. This guy looks to be very skilled. He's got a great build. Great shape, but he's very athletic, right? Long for the weight class. And he's strong, good wrestling, good top game, solid jiu-jitsu. Striking's a work in progress, but he has those long arms. Like you said, the jab's a work in progress. This guy's going to go up. He had a very competitive debut against Bruce Leroy, who's already very established in the UFC. He loses split, turns into a no contest. I believe Bruce Leroy was on the marijuana. And there's been no real consistency from Mr. Perfect since then. I mean, despite the name. He beats Chico Camus, no longer with the promotion. Shimzu's no longer with the promotion. Tanaka by split. Tanaka no longer with the promotion. Guido Canetti, no longer with the promotion. Ricardo Ramos is split. His last 2, Brandon Davis and Pingyu Liu, are both splits. This man's had 9 fights in the UFC, 4 of which have been split decisions. He's in a lot of close fights. This one probably figures to be another close fight. So again, when you talk about the bad judging, what are they going to look at? Are they going to look at the occasional takedown by Kang and that jab? Or are they going to look at Yahya pressing forward and throwing more kicks and trying to drag this thing to the mat? You just don't 100% know. Also, Rani Yahya, he's had the body of work, right? He's fought a lot more recently, coming in against Ray Rodriguez and looking good against Rodriguez. Prior to that, a year off, but the Enrique Barzola fight, he looked pretty solid. And the fight before that, Ricky Simone is a top 15 guy within the division. Maybe not quite 15, maybe 20, but it's a hell of a division. Mm-hmm. I would say Yahya's got the experience. He's got the recent fight. He's not going to have the ring rust. He's been fighting fairly competitively. His striking has actually been improving a lot because he doesn't care if you take him down. So he can go spam kicks, throw some wild and reckless stuff, and push a bit of a pace. He's got terrible cardio, but see, I would reckon that Kang's got terrible cardio as well. And that's kind of the troublesome thing with Kyung Kang. When you look at, again, by the numbers, the Pingyu Liu fight, he got outstruck. He only landed 20 strikes over 15 minutes, 3 takedowns, which is probably not on the table against Yahya.
You don't want to be taking Yahya to the ground.
Yeah, but 20 strikes. The fight before that with Brandon Davis, he got outstruck 77-50. He got 3 takedowns, but you can tell when he's standing that jab's working for him. And then after the first round, he's not comfortable standing anymore. And he likes to mix in those takedowns. So where I'd say is he's definitely a better striker than Rani Yahya. Rani Yahya is probably going to come forward. And eventually at some point, he's going to realize, I don't want to strike anymore, and shoot a takedown. Now, you got to get Yahya tired before you shoot that takedown. Otherwise, he's just going to wrap you up and cause some problems for you. But if he shoots out of desperation and Yahya's not quite cooked yet, it's going to be a serious problem for him. Last but not least, again, you talked about the military service. He starts off, he fights Bruce Leroy and Chico and all those guys. And then in 2014, he disappears for 4 years. Comes back in 2018, fought twice. 2019, fought 3 times. And then the pandemic happened. So it wasn't like it was a volunteer layoff. It's that he's from Korea. It was probably tough travel restrictions, probably tough training situation. Maybe you don't have all your training partners in line. The version that's going to come back is probably not going to have sick cardio and fixed all these holes in his game, I don't think. Whereas Rani Yahya can just be that type of tricky opponent. So straight up, Yahya's dog money at plus 115. And I never bet Yahya ever. But we both cashed an easy ticket on him against Ray Rodriguez last time out on the basis of...
He was a sizable favorite in that spot, though.
Sizable favorite because, he's got such an advanced submission game. Ray Rodriguez seems to get submitted in all these spots. I mean, it writes itself. With Kang's not getting submitted in all these spots. He's got good jiu-jitsu. The problem is that he's got offensive jiu-jitsu where he shoots takedowns and ends up on top. And against Rani, nobody shoots offensive take. Nobody wants to go to the ground with him, at least not early. The biggest thing that Kang could do is use the wrestling defensively, keep the fight standing, feed him the jab for the first 5 minutes.
Yep.
And as he starts to get tired, push a pace on him and wear on him. I just don't trust his cardio to push a pace and wear on him. So again, I'd love to just rewatch a lot more of these fights and jump in way deeper on the tape study, because I like watching everything twice over. This week, it's only like, maybe I'm only going to get caught in once over. What I see right now, I think I'm going to take that plus 115 dog shot on Rani, Yahya. However, that could entirely change as the week progresses and as you see weigh-ins and as more information becomes readily available to. Who knows if it's even going to happen the way this card's been falling apart. But knock on wood, as of now, I'll take a dog shot on Yahya on the co-main.
All right, we got Cheyanne Buys taking on Gloria de Paula. Cheyanne Buys is a -170 favorite. De Paula can be had for +150. What I see from De Paula in her UFC fight is she's a Muay Thai striker against Jinh Yu Frey, who we'll talk about later on the card. But like, her takedown defense looked non-existent. Like the 2 times that Jinh Yu Frey shot for a takedown, not that Cheyanne and Jinh Yu Frey is not exactly a world-class grappler by any stretch of the imagination, but like rounds 1 and rounds 3, shoots for the takedown, gets them pretty much immediately, and is able to hold position and control for both of those rounds. Round 2, she actually did pretty well. There was no takedown. Jinh Yu Frey did not go for a takedown, and her Muay Thai looks pretty decent. My big question here, and you know, I was all about Canelo Montserrat Ruiz when she took on Buys, because I saw Buys against Hillary Rose, and I saw that she was just a little bit too comfortable getting into that clinch position, and that was the only way that she could lose this fight, and she kind of fell into it. Her grappling against Hillary Rose doesn't actually look all that bad. She knows how to reverse position. She knows how to like reverse, like up against the cage. She's able to turn it around. She's pretty strong for the weight class. Can she shoot a double? Because if this fight stays on the feet, I could see it being either A, really competitive, or B, Gloria de Paula pulling off the upset in this spot. But I didn't see anything on the ground from Gloria de Paula. It's like, hopefully Cheyanne Buys able to shoot for a takedown. Do you see anything for her that would imply that she can shoot a double, get this fight to the mat, and control down there? Because I don't think her grappling is all that bad. I think it's more advanced than what I see from Gloria de Paula. So I'll pick Buys, but trust in somebody who doesn't really show very much wrestling acumen to go out there and use some wrestling. That's risky business, especially at -170. What's your take here?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know how much overexposure you want in this fight, but at -170, I guess my lean would be towards Cheyanne Buys based on we didn't see the best out of her by a long shot in that debut against Montserrat Ruiz, because Ruiz just uses the head and arm toss every time. And every time. 4 times. I shouldn't say every time. 4 times with ease. And then that was the majority of the fight. When Buys would get up, you could see that the striking was there. You could see that she is a good output fighter. Great cardio. She never looked tired at no point versus Ruiz. The striking was getting through in spots. It's that Ruiz had that one go-to move that she could just jump back to by default and slow Buys down. I didn't mind when I saw that. You also got to factor in that Buys was fighting on the same card as JP, her husband, and he ended up getting knocked out by Bruno Silva earlier in the night, like first fight of the card. So how much does any of that stuff factor in? Who knows? But what we saw in Contender Series is that great volume. Again, I think she landed like 94 significant strikes, pushes a pace, seems to have some well-rounded skills, comes to this fight with Ruiz, is a big favorite. I kind of drank the Kool-Aid a little bit. She's got the superior striking. Her husband's like a credited wrestler. I mean, this guy's pretty legit out of South Africa. Sure, she's full-time out of Las Vegas right now. Surely they're going to get ready for a schoolyard head throw. And remember, she was like kind of cocky, man. Like beforehand, they were like, she did an interview and she's like, oh yeah, that's a basic move. I've been working on it. Pfft, wouldn't work on me. It's like, no, it worked real easy on you 4 times. So maybe it was a slice of humble pie. And I think that's what she needs to get back to the drawing board and make improvements, you know? Her going up to her and saying, I'll follow you home, bitch, right afterwards.
That was hilarious.
That shows that, hilarious. One of the greatest moments to see in MMA. But again, it just shows that the fire was there and she came to fight. She felt like she got robbed of that opportunity to fight because she was getting held in that same move over and over. It wasn't Ruiz's fault. It was Buys' fault for putting the hooks in and falling susceptible to the same move over and over. But I think this fight, you're going to see her fired up to go out there and do some damage. And I completely agree. DePaula's Muay Thai looks pretty good. That second round versus Jin Frey looks pretty solid, considering that Jin Frey's an okay striker herself. But the fact that when she did get taken down, she had nothing. And by all accounts, Jin Frey is a natural atomweight, 105 pounder. The fact that she was able to take you down, she was able to have that much success in the grappling. I feel like Buys is a bigger, stronger, heavier opponent. She will have some success in the striking, but she'll also have success if she's able to mix in a few takedowns along the way. So I just the confidence level isn't totally there. It's women's MMA. It's probably going to be a close competitive fight. The judges, what are the judges going to look at if this is a close competitive fight? Why not just spam the underdog? Why not just spam the underdog in that DePaula probably keeps it standing for 2 of these 3 rounds and uses that Muay Thai? Like, why isn't that the angle? And I'm sure a lot of sharps will be like, that's what I did. That's what I did. But I'm not, she's so one-dimensional in her game and her approach that I'm not sold on it.
Her takedown defense looked abysmal against Frey. Like, there was no saving grace there. She looked very, very well behind this level of MMA. So that it's like if she gets taken down twice and just held down the first 2 rounds, it doesn't matter. Like, what she have to put up a 10-8? We're in Vegas. They don't even they didn't even give Kyler Phillips a 10-8. What is a 10-8 anymore? Yeah, so I mean, hopefully Bay's corner is all about like, hey, your grappling actually looks pretty good on the ground. Like, she did well against Hillary Rose. She did well against like when she was down there against Canelo. It's like she didn't let herself get finished. She was fighting and advancing. So she obviously works on her jiu-jitsu. If she has a little bit of offensive wrestling, that's probably all it takes here. Like, DePaula looks like a complete fish on the mat from what I gather from watching her fights. I think that's all we got to say about this one, right?
Yeah, fact.
Niklas Stolze takes on Jared Night Train Gooden. Stolze -200 favorite. Gooden can be had for +170. There are no totals on this fight because Gooden is coming in on super late notice. What'd you take here, Cody?
Yeah, again, I mean, this is a tough one. It's a tough one because the matchmaking is pretty competitive. Both guys haven't had exactly the best run inside the octagon, but there are some, admirable traits to both of them. But it's just the short notice nature of it definitely throws me off a little bit because Gooden's going to have to be in shape here, and I just don't know if he's
always in shape.
Yeah, fact. And he's +170 underdog. It's like, you know what? He's got the skills to go out there and spring the upset. He is in excellent shape. The problem I kind of have with him is maybe the cardio. His cardio didn't look superb on the regional scene. It looked like there was some spots where he was gassing out and getting tired. And then he makes a debut in the UFC. Again, he's on short notice against Alan Jouban. And that was a great fight, man. That was a great fight in that he lost every single round, but he kept coming at him. He kind of made it dicey a little bit for Alan in the 3rd round. He showed off some heart. He showed off some durability. He has been knocked out once previously in his career, but it was up a weight class at 185 pounds. But facts are facts. He got outstruck by Alan Jouban 168 to 100. His volume looked pretty good there. His cardio looked pretty okay there. It's that next fight with Abubakar. This is a very difficult task, right? But all of a sudden, like, the output wasn't quite there. He got taken down once by Abubakar. He just kind of looked like a different version of himself. And now coming into this fight with Stolze, again, I think that he's got the skills that he could probably pull something off. I just don't know if he's going to be able to go out there for a hard 15 minutes. And with Stolze, I think that he's going to probably be in better shape. He was preparing to take on Mounir Lazzez in the spot, which is, no offense to Jared Gooden, but would be a tougher fight. He's a bigger guy, probably a slightly better striker. Gooden's got power. Gooden can go out there and throw those hands. But the thing with Niklas Stolze is that he's never been knocked out. He's never been finished. He's got 4 professional losses. All 4 of them are by decision. One of them by split. And his most recent, his UFC debut, was against Ramazan Ameev, who's such a smothering force, man. He just smothers you up against the cage. Stolze didn't look terrible in that spot. He only gave up 1 takedown. He technically did outstrike him. It's just he was smothered the entire time. Here, we should see him, show off his skills a little bit more. I can see him getting out grappled by a lot of the guys in the division. I just don't necessarily know that Jared Gooden is one of them. And if Jared Gooden doesn't have 15 minutes of cardio to push a pace on him, Stolze probably ends up winning a close decision. But I can tell you is this thing's probably going the 15 minutes. We've got Gooden just went 15 with Jouban. It took everything he could throw, and then proceeded to go 15.
Strikes, yep.
Yeah, and then proceeded to go another 15 minutes with Abubakar Nurmagomedov. So his durability shouldn't be called into question at this point. And then flip side to that on Stolze, 4 pro losses has never been finished. So this thing's probably going 15. I'd be looking to hit it over on it. I think Stolze is going to do slightly more work, maybe slightly out grapple him. But for -200, that's a bad money line. And with bad judges, just not super confident there. So I could see spamming an underdog pick. Just me personally, I don't like spamming underdog picks. I like having confidence, and I truly believe deep down, run this 100 times that my guy wins 51. Like I got to have that faith. I don't have the faith in Gooden, but I will admit for his line, that's definitely an underdog shot.
You don't know about like what he's been up to. I'm sure he's gonna like. Yeah. Obviously, you can maybe judge a little bit more when you see him at the weigh-ins, but I do see. At one book out there that it seems that the opener for fight goes to decision was opened at -170.
Was -170 at open. Yeah.
Yeah. So the over will probably be close to -200.
Yeah, and so this is my last point that I'll leave you guys with, is that you're 100% going to have to watch the weigh-ins and watch the weigh-ins closely. But this is another reason I don't think Gooden will have the gas to go. So if you just look over at his recent record, right? So Stephen Newell, LFA 59. This is just 2 years ago, okay? It's a catch weight of 180 because he missed weight. His next fight against Michael Graves, he misses weight coming in at 174.6 for a welterweight fight. Then he moves up to 185 and fights at 185, comes back down. Oh no, he actually missed weight, came in at 176.6. He fights Jay Jackson at 185. He makes weight for Trent McCown, and then he's in the UFC.
So now he's taking a fight on short notice, and we're expecting him to make 170.
Yeah, fucking dude has missed weight. Yeah, so the short notice of it, and you've seen the pecs on this dude. What the fuck? There's like 40 pounds of muscle just on his tits. You know, like pretty impressive. Don't get me wrong, but got a lot of muscle mass, right? So if he comes in and he's not able to push that pace, I just don't think Stolze is going to go away easy. That's what should allow him. Maybe it's a good live betting situation, but pre-bet 2-1, like I don't feel super good about that.
That's fair. All right, we got Ryan Benoit taking on Zarrukh Adashev. Ryan Benoit a -135 favorite. Zarrukh Adashev can be had for +115. Flyweight action. I mean, in theory, Ryan Benoit wrestling advantage. Zarrukh Adashev striking advantage. Can you trust Ryan Benoit to go out there and spam takedowns, though, is the real question.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. He was actually like a standout high school wrestler in Texas. And then since coming to the UFC, he just chooses not to wrestle. And to that effect, even if he was trying to wrestle, he shows a 25% takedown accuracy. He did take down Tim Elliott once, but prior to that, he hadn't taken down anybody since Sergio Pettis 6 years ago. So he can wrestle, sure. He just oftentimes chooses not to. Ryan Benoit's also a guy that just doesn't compete enough. You know, he's been signed to the organization for quite a long time now, but you know, you're rare to get one or maybe two Ryan Benoit fights at absolute most per year. And then there's just these long holes of layoff. And his last fight against Tim Elliott, I didn't think he looked terrible. He ended up losing it. It was relatively close standing. You know, they mixed in a few takedowns here and there. Is that he fights these really poor game plans. His ring IQ just doesn't quite seem to be there. In his other fights, Haile Alatang, you know, the Chinese, or I guess he's Mongolian, but he wrestles Benoit quite handily, scores the 4 takedowns on him. So as much as wrestling kind of is that base of his, he opts not to use it, and it ain't elite by any stretch of the imagination. With Adashev, meanwhile, he got 6 pro fights and holds a 3-3 professional record. Yeah, he did do a little bit of glory kickboxing, and yeah, he's credited as a good striker. There's just not enough MMA experience there. I mean, again, Ryan Benoit made his UFC debut, I should say, in 2013. You know, he's been signed to the organization for nearly 8 years. In that time, he's beaten current Bellator champion Sergio Pettis. He fought former Olympian Freddie Serrano. He fought current UFC champion Brandon Moreno and lost a split decision to him, by the way. He fought Tim Elliott, a former world title challenger. That's experience. That's legit experience. So even though we're shitting on him a little bit here and there, and it's like, yeah, he doesn't really perform against top level guys, he's fought top level guys. And that's kind of my knock on Adashev, is that like he got folded up by Tyson Nam in 3-2 seconds. That's not the problem. The problem is that we didn't see anything out of him, right? It just happened so fast. And then the next fight was Sumudaerji. Everybody was on Sumudaerji. Everyone thought Sumudaerji would walk right through this kid. And, you know, he did comfortably win all of the rounds, but Adashev striking definitely looked okay, showed a better version of himself, and showed that he's not just super chinny and that he could fight 15 minutes. And not being chinny and being able to fight 15 minutes could be enough to beat Ryan Benoit. It really could, because he's not going to press the action with the takedowns. And if he doesn't, you're going to have a striker versus striker battle. That plays in Adashev's hand. I think that the light kicks will slightly be there. I would think that Benoit slows down the stretch. I mean, he usually tends to. And again, looking at the line, you can get a plus 115 on Adashev. So whereas I said earlier, I don't like spamming underdogs, I do see a path of victory for this guy. The dog money is not good enough for me. I'd like to have a 25. Not even. That's still not good enough. I'd like to hold like a 135 plus 145 ticket on Adashev at the very least. Not going to get that. Do I think he wins by decision? Probably. But again, if you're a good striker and you've got good hands, I mean, it could end inside the distance at some point. Confidence level, this is another fight. Could care less. It's not the highest. But yeah, on this card, you're going to have a lot of these slight greasy underdogs pull through some bad decisions. And if it's going to be a bad decision and it's going to go 15 minutes, then why not have the guy that's going to have this cleaner striking technique, stuffs a few takedowns here and there, and is not as tired. So I see a path for Zarrukh Adashev, but a lot of that path is on the basis of Ryan Benoit's just going to fight a stupid game plan like he always does. And if he was to fight a good game plan, I'd be in trouble. I'm banking on he's not going to.
Yeah, looking on like best fight odds, it seems like anytime it gets up to like plus 130 at any website, there's buying pressure that brings it back down. So the line's gonna either get closer to a pick'em or it's gonna stay around the same thing. I would say it's a dog or pass for me. We got Bryan Barberena taking on Jason Witt. Bryan Barberena minus 265 favorite. Jason Witt can be had for plus 215. Bryan Barberena, historically, guy that we used to talk about, who had the most insane durability that you've ever seen. It's obviously been cracked a couple times in his last 3 fights, but these things happen in MMA. Jason Witt is a guy who, I mean, we kind of circled him coming into the UFC as, I don't know about his durability. I ended up being like the ultimate fish and betting him against Cole Williams. But I got that back, betting Semmelsberger by knockout the next time out. The line is obviously wide here, minus 265 plus 215, but it's like, historically, Bryan Barberena can take an absurd amount of damage. Historically, Jason Witt cannot take a absurd amount of damage. I'm going to go with the chin, 9 times out of 10. What's your take here?
I agree, and this is the one thing price, where I know we can't top ticket Bryan Barberena. He's just way too untrustworthy. The narrative's there 100%. The style clash is there 100%. Everything favors Bryan Barberena when you look at he's got the experience, right? He's fought in guys like Vicente Luque. He's fought in guys like Colby Covington. He's fought in guys like Leon Edwards. He's fought in the best of the best guys possibly available. You know, he was that gritty underdog pick that if you got him for plus money, you know, he's always going to fight for your dollar. You know, he's always going to go out there and give you a performance. That was the Bryan Barberena that we knew and loved. That Bryan Barberena comes out here and beats Jason Witt 9.5 out of 10 times. He knocks him out in the first round 9.5 out of 10 times. He walks right through him 9.5 out of 10 times. Very confident in that. He's not that guy anymore. And so that's kind of where my slight hesitancy is here. He's currently the second biggest favorite on the card. So we're going to need a lot of faith in him. And if you were somebody that just puts the biggest favorites together, he's obviously going to end up on a top ticket for you. But again, I think I got this impression that he's washed. The durability is probably still there, but the skill set's not quite there. His reaction time's not there anymore. The grittiness is still there, but he's not a great version of himself. And nowhere is that he's still probably good enough to beat Jason Witt. There's just massive red flags here. So what I'm getting at is, again, you look at him at his best. He's tremendous, tough talent, just always fights for your dollar. He's very grindy, right? Now, the fight with Randy Brown would be the key. He loses to Randy Brown. He gets knocked out. The fight before with Vicente Luque, you give him a pass there. It's Luque. Yeah. They go to war. He is in the fight. He has plenty of spots. It's one of the best fights you're going to see that year. Hands down. An absolute pleasure to watch. But he gets knocked out. The follow-up fight with Randy Brown, his durability wasn't there. He didn't look the same, but it's Randy Brown. Give him one more pass. This is where things get fucked for him. After the Brown fight, he took a year off. By his own account, he ballooned up to heavyweight. He says he's walking around at 220 pounds, decides, you know what? I'm never going to fight again. My back's screwed. I'm just going to retire. And then decides, you know what? Gets his back fixed, decides I should start training to lose some of this weight, gets training. They motivate him. The crew motivates him. Hey, let's get a fight. Gets a fight. Comes back in against Anthony Ivy. Anthony Ivy's a walkover opponent. Bryan Barberena is a minus 250 favorite. This is an easy opponent. And the one knock on him, he was super slow, right? He didn't appear to be in very good shape. And he gave up 5 takedowns to Anthony Ivy. That's all very concerning.
Yeah.
After the Anthony Ivy fight, because he wins, doesn't look great doing it, but he won, right? Then he scheduled to fight Daniel Rodriguez a couple months later. Bryan Barberena withdraws to undergo surgery. So now he gets a second major surgery, which has now knocked him out for an additional, you know, I don't know, 8 months or something. He's 34 years old. The style that he's fought was reckless. No doubt about it, his body's taking a tremendous amount of damage. He's going through all of these operations for a reason. His weight has ballooned up and down between fights. As a 270 favorite, there's just too many red flags. And I would not be shocked in the very least if Jason Witt just went out there and took him down and held on to him. And whereas Jason Witt is chinny as fuck, everybody knows that, Jason Witt included. So he needs to stop standing with opponents and spam takedowns. And what's good for him is he's out of Gloria MMA and Fitness, coached by James Krause. James Krause is a straight shooter. They're not going to tell him to stand up with Bryan Barberena. They're going to tell him to wrestle. Now, look at that Cole Williams fight prior to the Matthew Semmelsberger fight. It's awful. But all he does is go in, spam the takedown, sit on top of guard, work him over. Cole Williams is fat and out of shape. He's got no ability to get back up. Turns out Witt wrestled collegiately. Turns out Witt's in good shape, and he's a big, strong guy. Can't take a punch, but he can grind a little bit. And classic Bryan would work his way back up, and classic Bryan would stuff a few of those takedowns and then grind on you. But this ain't classic Bryan. So if Witt just gets takedowns in the first two, there will not be a classic third-round comeback from Barberena. He's going to start accepting these positions and getting tired. And I can just see it going massively south for him. So I still want to take Bryan Barberena. It just seems like this is a walk in the park for him. And the fact that Semmelsberger, the very first punch he landed,
never exactly
knocked out Jason Witt.
Barberena's always been a volume guy more than just like a one-hitter quitter kind of guy.
Yeah. In his career, mind you, he's taken on some tremendous guys. Leon Edwards takes him down 3 times. Colby Covington takes him down 12 times. None of that is a problem. The problem is Anthony Ivy now represents the worst guy you've ever fought in the UFC. And Anthony Ivy was successful in pulling you to the mat 5 times. Now, what we know about Ivy is that he was fighting. This is his second UFC fight. His debut was awful. I don't even know if he's still with the promotion anymore. And this wasn't his go-to. You know, I would say Witt is a better wrestler. He's got a better ground game. He's going to be better coached, have a better game plan. And it would be possible to pull it off on a 34-year-old, out of shape, injured, ring rusted up Bryan Barberena. So I'm not completely writing Witt off. And whereas I'll probably just take the coward's approach and have Bryan Barberena on some tickets, I don't got the confidence level that a 270 would suggest. And that probably a lot of people are thinking this week.
These are all fair points.
DraftKings Sportsbook is not only our favorite sportsbook, but also America's top-rated sportsbook. Speaking of America, the top athletes are over in Tokyo competing for the gold, and DraftKings has a medal-worthy offer just for listeners of the Dog or Pass podcast. Listen to this great offer. Place any wager pre-event of $1 to be eligible to cash $100 in free credits if America wins any medal this year. That's 100-1 odds on an American athlete to stand on the podium and receive gold, silver, or bronze this week. 100-1 odds on an offer like this doesn't come around very often, so sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook now and get in on all the action. We love using DraftKings Sportsbook. Easy to navigate, has plenty of instructions for new bettors, and nearly limitless ways to get in on the action. Our friends and family have been loving DraftKings Sportsbook, and we know you will too. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DOP when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits if America wins a medal. That's code DOP to turn $1 into $100 in free credits for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
All right, next up we got Nicco Montano taking on Wu Yanan. Nicco Montano a -240 favorite. Wu Yanan can be had for +195. Nicco Montano hasn't fought in just a smidge over 2 years, but frankly, in that Juliana Pena fight, particularly round 1, she looked pretty damn good. Fighting up at 135 fighting a big, domineering, physical presence like Juliana Pena, who, I mean, she's fighting for the UFC title, but that's because Amanda Nunes has killed everybody at this point. But it's still like she fought a high-level opponent and looked good doing it. Roxanne Modafferi, obviously, Roxanne used to be the butt of many jokes back in 2017. But, you know, she put a whooping on her back then as well. But now we've got the big concern about laying a minus 240 on her in this situation is frankly, we got, she was supposed to take on Macy Chiasson. She had an injury. Bout rescheduled against Julia Avila. Then she tested positive for COVID and rebooking against Julia Avila. Rebook it again against Julia Avila, and she withdraws. She's supposed to fight Carl Rosa, and then she was not medically cleared, and that was back in February, the last one against Carl Rosa. So there's obviously big-time red flags with her. I think her talent is actually pretty good. Her grappling is solid, and what I see from Wu Yanan is the striking definitely is a work in progress, and I feel that's where you would have to really exploit Nicco Montano. Her grappling is tremendous, and obviously she's going to be giving up a little bit of size here, but the reach isn't too far off between the two of them. I like Nicco Montano, but like the amount of time off and the injuries and all of the other stuff, it makes it hard to pay the minus 240 price tag. What's your take here?
Yeah, I actually don't mind the price tag all that much. It's definitely starting to inflate. I mean, you care now, but it's starting to inflate towards Nicco Montano, and I think the UFC's done the right thing here in giving her a winnable fight. I mean, it's very difficult to just keep throwing her in with the best girls of the division on the basis of you won that one fight on a reality show that one time that gifted you a title, and now there's expectations, right? But it's like she's been injured. She's been kind of balancing what do you do in your career, you know, the motivation level. It's all tough stuff. What I will say though is that last fight with Carol Rosa, she's not medically cleared because she attempted to make 125 pounds. She can't make 125. She's too big for the weight class. Not even like too big stature wise. It's just she doesn't cut weight well. Maybe her body doesn't react to it. She's better at 135 anyway, so that's fine. But Macy Chiasson actually also won the Ultimate Fighter at 145 pounds and is gigantic. Julia Avila is a good sized bantamweight, man. She's pretty good shape, very, very strong. Carol Rosa, even though she's a 25er, is extremely physically strong. All of those would have represented very tough fights, especially very tough fights to come back of after a year-plus long layoff. So at least coming back against Yanan Wu seems to be kind of right up her alley. Yanan Wu is 1-3 in the UFC. Keep in mind, the one win over Laura Mueller was at 125. The 3 losses are all at 135. So she's not a bantamweight either. She's a girl that missed weight against Laura Mueller. Came in at, it was the Mizuki Inoue fight. She misses weight coming in at 129 for a flyweight fight. And then she was forced up against Jocelyn Edwards her last time out. I thought she looked awful in that fight. The striking wasn't quite there. The grappling wasn't quite there. Jocelyn Edwards almost submitted her in the first round with an arm bar. Besides that, I mean, Jocelyn Edwards is making her debut, hadn't fought anybody, was fighting up a weight class, I believe, and was fighting on short notice. And still, it was just like far too much. So what we know is that Montano at her best, like you mentioned, the Roxanne Modafferi fight, where she lands something disgusting, like 169 significant strikes over the course of 25 minutes. The cardio checked out that night. The striking was there. The output was there. I think she's going to have a physical advantage here. Her wrestling should be a little bit better. The one thing is, long layoff. But what we got to give is, we've been talking about this every week. There's always somebody coming in with some long ass layoff. Last week it was TJ Dillashaw. Yeah. The week before that was Miesha Tate. The week before that it was, you name it.
Ring rust is overrated. I feel like ring rust has been debunked.
Yeah, but it's not overrated.
Obviously, for some people, it may work out. Like I'm sure there's certain people where you'd be like, "Oh, ring rust was a thing there," but it's not. Not just because you were out for 2 years in the year 2021 doesn't mean that you're not going to come back and still have a bunch of those skills still in check.
Yes, and what I would say as well, it's all about did you need to be competing to be making improvements? Was time in the gym just good for you? And in Montano's cases, we already know that she's got legitimate skills. I mean, you mentioned the fact that she took a round over Juliana Pena, and Pena's huge. He's very big for the weight class, very strong for the weight class. You know, Montano had success early there, and the rest of the fights are all legit, dude. Okay, so Roxanne Modafferi, who's definitely proven any naysayers wrong that she's legit. Barb Honchak used to be the #1 ranked female in the world at her weight class, kind of before the sport really took off for women's MMA. Montana De La Rosa is still cutting it in the UFC. Lauren Murphy is getting close to a title fight in the UFC. Julia Avila is a top 10 ranked girl currently in the UFC. Even the low end ones, Pam Sorensen's legit. Shanna Dobson pulled off the biggest upset in UFC history, which would be Maria Agapova. Like, they're all still relevant fighters, and she's been in there with that. So the skill is not something we need to question. And the 2 years long layoff, you know, where that is an issue, where that's definitely a red flag. 33 years old, not quite over the hill. If she gets her body in work, if this fight even happens again, there's still a few days out. And if I was to guess any fighter that was going to fall off, I guess I would say Montano because of that recent history. Outside of that, if she shows up, makes weight, she's got the superior skill set. It's nothing against Wu. She's, I believe, 26 years old. She's still got room to improve, but she hasn't shown us anything to this point. She's dominated by girls like Gina Mazzani in the grappling department. What do you think is going to happen here, right? Montano is going to be able to mix in the takedowns with the striking, but will have advantages in both dimensions, right? So wherever she wants to take this fight, she should be able to and get the victory. A little bit hesitant because of the layoff and it's women's MMA and it's bad judging and blah, 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 blah. But like, you got to pull the trigger at some point. Yeah. And I think Montano is going to be a play.
All right, we're going to have to figure out who I'm going to be parlaying with Nicco Montano. I don't have many bets, but I do have a bet on the next fight here. We have Melsik. Apologies in the comments if I butcher this one. Baghdasaryan taking on Collin Anglin. Baghdasaryan is a -135 favorite. Anglin can be had for +115. Watching Melsik on Contender Series, both of these guys coming off of Contender Series. I mean, Melsik went out there. I think he trains with like Leon Shabazian, and like frankly, like right out of the gate in his fight, he is looking for the kill. Now his record leading into his Contender Series spot,
gets a lot of kills.
he's killing everybody, and he's killing 14 seconds, 32 seconds, 9 seconds, 7 seconds. But he is fighting absolutely nobody. He takes on Dennis Bujikas. I don't know. I can't pronounce that thing. That's a mouthful right there.
Zooks.
And that guy took everything that he could in round one and lived to tell the tale. And then it got really dicey after that. He was, Melsik was slowing down quite a bit. He had a few spots where he was able to land some heavy strikes, but for the most part, he's kind of just holding on for dear life. Kind of surprised that the finish didn't present itself there. Anglin on the other side of the spectrum, he comes in. I believe he was a slight underdog against Mohamed Naimov in their Contender Series fight. And it was kind of a similar thing. Naimov trying to finish him off early, but the wrestling was really there for Anglin, who was able to control. And I thought he was going to get a finish in round 3. Like, Naimov really, really looked cooked. He wasn't able to get the finish. But I kind of see this, it's almost like a striker versus grappler matchup. I'm not exactly sure who is going to win the fight, but I ended up taking a poke on the under +120. I just think 50% of the time these two guys go in there, either Melsik empties the bag too early, gets finished late. I know Collin wasn't able to finish off Naimov, which is a little bit of a concern, but I was frankly, I'm looking for bets to be made at this point on this card. It's a small bet, but, and I spread it actually between the fight doesn't go the distance and under 2.5, because I didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket and then you got like a finish in the last 2 minutes. But I think one of these gentlemen gets the job done, finds the finish, and I'll lean towards Melsik just because I think he's going to come out hot. The other risk that you have in all of this is that they're on Contender Series. Melsik knows it's just like, if I get a first-round finish, I'm going to get a contract. Maybe he changes his game plan a little bit here and spreads out his pace a little bit. But I saw the under in this fight at +money, and I was like, this seems like a spot to take. What's your take here?
Well, dude, especially the way he fights, it's like he's not looking to go out there and fight for an extended period of time. So I completely agree. It's like with Melsik, Baghdasaryan, he's got some big time, credible striking. And not only that, not only is he just a good MMA striker and all, he's out of the same camp as Leon Shabazian and the same crew as Edmund Taverdian, and are they a little bit suspect? And do they just get these easy opponents and blow right through them? Beyond just his MMA record, I mean, he had a pretty credible kickboxing record as well. He was competing over Japan for K1 for a little bit. He's also 3-0 as a professional boxer. I believe he might have even been signed to Golden Boy very briefly. And he's also like undefeated in his pro Muay Thai record. So there's a lot that you can like out of him in terms of his striking. But the same thing that happens when you get these guys that finish so many fights early in the regional scene, it's like, can they fight for an extended period of time? Now, the biggest knock guy out there, people lost a lot of money fading him for his first 3 fights, and now he's everybody's darling, is Giga Chikadze. Giga Chikadze is an awesome striker, right? He's a guy that fought for Gloria Kickboxing, Kyokushin Karate black belt, solid striker. Problem is that he had fought such shitty guys on the regional scene that there was an automatic impression that it's like he can't wrestle, he can't grapple. And, Jamal Emmers could have pressed the action a little bit more. Don't get me wrong. A couple guys could have fought better game plans against him. But he's all making improvements. He's getting a lot better. Shabazian, I'll admit, Shababy definitely let down a lot of people. He looked like he was going to be a striking star. He's knocking guys out of Contender Series. He comes to the UFC. He's scoring nice knockouts in the UFC. And then all of a sudden, the Darren Stewart fight, he looks lackluster. And then all of a sudden, the Brunson fight, he looks lackluster. And all of a sudden, it's like, geez, this guy's not quite who we thought. But he's still young. He's still making improvements. Baghdasaryan is the exact same way. He's beaten a lot of guys that were soft, but he's making those improvements. And so what I really liked when he fought Dennis Bazooka is that Bazooka came out of Serra-Longo. He's 23 years old. He had good grappling. He was a very solid guy. This figured to go beyond the first round. And that's where I didn't know if Melsik was going to be able to keep up this pace. But Baghdasaryan comes out, just like he always does in the first round. He absolutely puts it on it. Now, lesser opponents have lasted approximately 7 seconds, 9 seconds, 32 seconds, 14 seconds. But against a guy like the Bazooks, he takes everything he gives them. And so what I liked is this kid goes out there and tries to get that finish in the first. And the second and the third, this is the first time he's been in the second and the third in MMA. He takes his foot off the gas, and it is a closer fight, but he still comfortably goes out there and wins those striking exchanges. Again, you look by the numbers, that first round, he outstruck him 44-12, right? And Dennis can strike as well. 44-12, he's long, he's rangy, he's a great kickboxer. In that second one, 30-29, it's closer. It's a closer round. He does win it. He does land the bigger strikes, but it looks like he's getting tired in the round. And then the third round, he just catches a second win. Now strikes him 28-16. So because it was his first time going deep in a fight and he was able to make those adjustments and get through to the other side, that's all just like huge learning experience type stuff. Anglin figures to have a slight wrestling advantage. Anglin figures to have a cardio advantage. I just got a feeling that like he's not competed against anything at this level. And if he does not get that takedown, especially early, he's going to be dealing with a lot of fire from Melsik, Baghdasaryan. So yeah, I would lean towards him, but I wouldn't completely write off Anglin if he can get a couple takedowns early, work him.
Yeah. Like Anglin was like they kept talking on the commentary about how Naimov was like gassed, and Naimov was super, super gassed at the end of that fight. But Anglin didn't exactly show 3-round cardio either in that spot. Now there's been a lot of time off. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure on Dana White's Contender Series. Everyone's looking for finishes and yada yada yada. I'm sure both of these guys show better versions of themselves. Hopefully, to the under for my sake.
And no, you make a great point. So that Collin Anglin fight, when I rewatched it, he is dead dog tired. The difference is that Naimov is so much more tired.
I was surprised he didn't finish him in the last 2.5 minutes there. Like it was like Naimov. Now, if they just stayed on their feet, I don't know if Naimov could have stood for the next 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, Naimov ends up going and competing for Titan FC right afterwards and then loses that fight as well. He just wasn't all that good. When you look at Baghdasaryan's opponent, Dennis, it's like he actually looks like a good prospect, and he fought once since the fight with Melsik as well. He got a win. Like that guy will resurface in the UFC at some point. It was a credible enough win to me. The 3 rounds is huge for him. I'm gonna roll one more, and the line is -135. So this is a close fight. This is a good fight. I agree with that. You don't want to pay too much of a price for Baghdasaryan, but hopefully he keeps this thing standing. And if he does, he should be able to prevail. Even if you like shitting on Shabazian in his last 2 performances, just keep a note. You can see improving someone, maybe not the Brunson fight, but his last time out as well. It's like he is getting better. He's just so young. These kids are going to catch up eventually, and they're going to be a problem. And these Armenian guys, man, they're fucking tough, right? They've always been tough.
Melsik's 29 though. He's not exactly young.
Well, right, but he spent so much time kickboxing that he's young in his MMA career, and that's why I go back to the same example of Giga Chikadze, right? Giga Chikadze was super well refined as a kickboxer, Georgian, another tough son of a bitch. And now that he's adding those MMA skills together, it's just like, oh shit. He happens to be at King's MMA. I think King's MMA would probably help you a lot more than Glendale Fight Team, but hopefully I'm wrong at least once.
All right, we got Rafa Garcia taking on Chris Gruetzemacher. Garcia minus 310, Gruetzemacher plus 245. Garcia had a tough task coming in on like short notice, having to take on Nasrat Haqparast in his UFC debut. And frankly, like he lost all 3 of those rounds pretty closely, but he looked like he belonged at the very least. He's supposed to be like a grappler by trade, but his hands didn't look all that bad. He was getting soundly outstruck every single round, but it was a really tough ask against a very tough and game opponent. Gruetzemacher, on the other hand, frankly, there hasn't been too much to be too excited about in his UFC run here. I mean, the guy lost to Artem Lobov on the Ultimate Fighter way back when. It's been finished twice by Davi Ramos and Chas Skelly, both pretty decent submission guys, and they both got the job done against him. His only win, where he looked like a damn monster, was when he came in against Joe Lozon and definitely put the hurt on him. I don't know what was up with Joe that day, because Joe just could not hang with Chris the Grits. From watching that fight against Nasrat, I don't like the price at 310 because he hasn't really proven to us like how great can you look when your best performance is you in a losing affair. But I feel like he looked good enough that the price is probably close to right. I would pick him to win the fight. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I just don't think there's enough that you can go off with Gruetzemacher because of the layoffs. And, you know, he had a pretty good style back in the day. He was like your quintessential MMA lab type fighter. I believe he's at American Top Team now, but he just grinds on guys. His striking is not great. His wrestling is not great. His submission game is not great. He's got decent cardio. He's got decent durability, and he can grind on guys. He's got a real nice looking record. But again, when you look through that record, he has not beat Rolly Delgado and John Gunderson are UFC veterans, and then that's it. Now he's in the UFC by way of Ultimate Fighter, and he just hasn't been showing a great version of himself. He comes up with a colossal win over Joe Lozon, like you said, like holy shit, just absolutely blows the barn doors clean off him as a plus 135 underdog, collects 50 G's for a fight of the night bonus, gets booked against Benil Dariush, and then pulls out. Resurfaces 5 months later against Jesus Pinedo, and he tears his ACL. Then when he showed up against Alex Hernandez, he had effectively been out of the ring for 2.5 years. Alexander Hernandez landed 29 significant strikes in 1 minute and 46 seconds. Almost everything he threw landed flush, and toppled Gruetzemacher over. I didn't think physically he looked very good. His mobility looked very shaky for a guy that just had a massive ACL surgery as well. It just didn't look like his reflexes or his speed or his footwork, anything was in place. A guy like that never had the wrestling to take down a guy like Alexander Hernandez. He doesn't have the striking to really stand with a guy like Alexander Hernandez. So it was never going to go good for him. And then sure enough, it didn't go good for him. Now you factor in another nearly year-long layoff. I think it's like 9 or 10 months. He's 35 years old. There's not enough that we can really like there. So with Rafa Garcia, yeah, I'll admit you had the best joke even today. I think it was funny as hell. But we talked about him versus Nasrat, and you're like, dude, he's half a Garcia. Even if he was a full Garcia, he wouldn't be winning this fight. And I thought it was hilarious thing because it was
I know. Yeah. And then rewatching the fight, he actually goes by Rafa, so the joke was kind of lost. He goes
by Rafa, and then in my mind, watching that fight, I was like, you know what? He is only a half a Garcia, and he's putting up a damn fight. A full Garcia might be able to pull this thing off. Mm-hmm. He took the fight on short notice, so keep in mind he actually looked very solid in the first round, and then he fell off, right? which is totally understandable. But the key there is that Nasrat has very stout takedown defense and is very long with his punches. Nasrat also has 72-inch reach, which is a 2-inch reach advantage over Rafa, whatever he wants to be called. In this spot with Gruetzemacher's got a 68-inch reach. It's 4 inches lower or smaller than Nasrat, and as a result, he's not going to be able to keep Garcia on the end of his punches quite as well. Garcia also looked physically pretty fit, strong guy, able to go out there, maybe muscle down a takedown. He never quit once against Haqparast the entire time. He kept coming at him. And again, if you want to look at the striking numbers, this guy is a grappler. He was unable to get the takedowns consistently, so he was forced to strike. And even then, he kept it relatively tight. Got outstruck in the first round, 20-15. Second round, he still manages 24 strikes landed, which is a career best for him. And then in the third round, he falls off. Understandable, because he was on short notice. So honestly, in this spot, I think that he's going to have success going out there, using his hands. He might be able to knock out Gruetzemacher. But if he's not able to knock him out, no problem. Peel this guy to the ground. Use that strength. Use that physicality. Use the top game. And just give him an old-fashioned grinding. I think Garcia is live to do that. I think that he's still making improvements, and he's still only 26 years old. So if he just even shows up as the same version that he was against Haqparast, I think he'll be okay. If he shows up a slightly better version, even better. Gruetzemacher, it looks like he's on the decline. We've seen the regression through his last fight, because I suppose before that he beat Joe Lozon, but that was 3 years ago. 32-35 when you're getting knee surgery and you're pulling out of fights and you're dealing with that much ring rust, it is a big difference. So I got to go with Garcia with the line. Again, the line's pretty much snuffed out to it. It's Garcia. What did you mention? 310. Yeah. So, I mean, they're all on it. And do I want Rafa Garcia as the biggest favorite on the card and as a 3-1 favorite? No. I do agree that I think he's going to win, but the price is just not to my liking. And I'll have to jam him on some greasy parlays because that's what we do. But as far as like the smart thinking man goes, I don't think he wants to pay 3-1 on Garcia here.
All right, we got Kai Kamaka taking on Danny Chavez. Kai Kamaka -115 favorite. Chavez -105. Basically a straight pick 'em. Who you got?
I'm kind of leaning towards the slight underdog upset on Danny Chavez. But again, I mean, this one could definitely blow up in our face and head the other direction. I'm just not really sold on Kai Kamaka's, I'm not going to say durability. He's got solid durability. It's more so his cardio. His cardio has seemingly been a letdown in all of his fights in the UFC to this point. The fight with Tony Kelly, what an entertaining fight. Very, very entertaining back and forth. But he comes out like a stud in the first round. He looks tremendous in the first round. The second round, he's gassed out. Tony Kelly wins the second round, which is amazing because he's from an MTV show taking this fight at short notice and had fought once in the previous 4 years. And Tony Kelly wins the second round. The third round, it's all for grabs. Tony Kelly would otherwise probably win the round if not for the fact that a kick in the balls puts a lull in the action.
Was it a kick in the balls? He just took a little veteran break there, which allowed
Good
him
move
to,
by a
I mean, it's smart, but he took that. He got
sure.
that extra little minute and a half that he needed to get through the last because it looked like Tony Kelly was about to kill him.
I completely agree. I was like, oh shit, Tony Kelly's starting to put the gas on, even though he was tired because he was on short notice. It's like Kai Kamaka was the one that was supposed to be in shape. He looked great through the first 5 minutes, and then his game completely fell off. So yes, did the alleged nut kick help him? Hard to see how it didn't, but all the same, my takeaway there was good fight, very entertaining fight. He's got skill. He's got legitimate skill. But his cardio maybe needed a little bit of work. He's so young, dude. He's in his mid-20s. He's going to shore it up. Now he comes in against Jonathan Pierce. He's a heavy favorite over Jonathan Pierce. Pierce, meanwhile, had been knocked out by Joe Lozon. Only it turns out he got knocked out by Joe Lozon in Boston. That's mystical Joe. Joe's still alive in Boston. Joe anywhere else seems to be old and over the hill. But Joe in Boston is still something real. So even though Pierce is the underdog, Pierce has good cardio, and that's all he needed against Kamaka. He put a pace on Kamaka. Kamaka started out well, completely gassed out, and by the second round, Paul, he was an absolute fish out of water. JSP's all of a sudden getting easy takedowns. Those takedowns are just leading into just a ton of ground and pound. He never stops. He pounds him out in the second round. This is effectively a bad performance for Kai Kamaka. Then that TJ Brown fight, he should have won. He really should have. He knocked TJ Brown down. I don't know. It was a weird fight. Like on one hand, the output was coming from TJ Brown. On the other hand, TJ Brown mixed in a few takedowns, but I honestly did feel like Kai Kamaka should have won that fight for whatever reason. It was a weird decision. I'm sure we might get another weird decision here come Saturday. His cardio didn't look particularly good. So I guess that's the narrative that I keep drawing up here, is that he could come out and look very good early, but if he gets tired and drops 2 or 3, then if you're almost losing to guys like Tony Kelly, getting TKO'd by a guy like Jonathan Pierce, and then not looking super good out in your follow-up performance as well against TJ Brown, it's just not enough for me to go off of. The flip side to Danny Chavez, the reason why I think he'd be live as an underdog is that we just haven't really seen the best of him yet. So he comes over as he's at an MMA Masters. He loves to leg kick, and he's a credible enough striker. But they give him TJ Brown in his debut. Mm-hmm. TJ Brown, I mean, he's a good wrestler, right? So he gets 4 takedowns. TJ Brown, went 0 for 6 on takedowns. Tried to grapple him. You saw Chavez flip the script. You see Chavez take out his lead leg completely with those leg kicks, which all of a sudden TJ Brown can't wrestle because his leg's gone. And all of a sudden it's like this Chavez guy fights a smart game plan in that fight. His next time out against Jared Gordon is the most smothering guy in the division. Nah, I shouldn't say that. There's good guys in the division, but he represents one of the most smothering guys in the division. Similar to a Darren Elkins, it's like if you don't turn the lights off, and it's hard to turn the lights off, he doesn't go away. He just keeps grinding on you. And you really saw Chavez just get the life zapped out of him, right? Go ahead.
I think that was a catch weight between the two of them as well. Of 150. At least per Tapology, it says it was. So.
Yeah, you know what? And that makes a lot of sense to me that it would have been a catch weight of
He was able to use that extra size because he definitely was able to control him. And it looks like Chavez came in at 145. So it must have been like a last minute. I mean, this is all per Tapology. But yeah, he did get smothered in that fight.
This is all per Tapology, of course, is that they got Gordon coming in at 155 and they've got Chavez coming in at 150. It'd be a 5-pound weight advantage. But beyond that is that he had previously fought Charles Oliveira at 155 pounds. He fought Dan Moret at 155 pounds. He fought Joaquim Silva and Diego Ferreira at 155. Jared Gordon's a big guy, man. Mm-hmm. Jared Gordon's fought at lightweight, didn't look out of place. As a featherweight, he's monstrous. And I've always made the joke with Court McGee and Matt Brown. They died of drug overdoses, heart stopped, zapped back to life. And now as a result, in their primes, they just had infinite cardio. Matt Brown in his prime would never slow down, not ever, right? Court McGee in his prime wouldn't slow down, not ever. Jared Gordon's the same way. It's like, when he's on, the dude's cardio is for real. And so what I'm getting at we haven't seen the best version of Danny Chavez is his first fight, TJ Brown, was a grappler. When they struck, he looked real good. When they grappled, okay, he's fighting a grappler. The next fight with Jared Gordon, it was almost all grappling, and it was very frustrating and tough for a Danny Chavez. This fight, he doesn't really figure to face nearly as much grappling, I wouldn't think. I think Kai Kamanga is going to stand in front of him, land the jab, use the reach, use the size, stay to the outside as best as he can, and hopefully Chavez is able to work that lead leg a little bit. In the second round, if Kai Kamanga is starting to move a little bit gingerly, he's able to slow him down, and Kai starts to get tired, Danny could just ever so slightly edge him out. And this is Vegas. They showed last week that if it's a close fight, why not go with the other side? And we're not really getting a very good plus money tag on.
There's no plus money on it.
It's even, eh? No, it's, right. It's minus 105.
But yeah, from what
I'm not going to, go ahead.
All I was going to say to wrap it up, because you pretty much said everything I was going to say, is I have the slight wrestling advantages to Chavez per the Brown fights. You got owned there by Gordon, but yeah, I think the size and everything like that definitely played into factor. And Kamako may be a little bit sharper on the feet, but I think, leg kicks and takedowns. And I definitely see a clear path to victory for Danny Chavez here. So I'm with you.
Yeah. Cool. Sounds good.
All right. Ashley Yoder taking on Jinyu Frey. Ashley Yoder, a minus 145 favorite. Frey can be had for plus 125. I mean, this is a fight between two low volume fighters. When they are on the feet, the volume just isn't there. There isn't very much activity. Going back and watching Frey versus Kay Hansen, I think the takedown should be there for Yoder. So as the line is starting to move, I was like minus 135. It's starting to move to minus 145, minus 150. I think the line movement is right in this situation. I do think that Yoder should be able to secure takedowns here, probably hold position for the most part. But if she's not securing takedowns here, it's going to get very, very ugly on the feet. I mean, if Frey actually throws anything, but Yoder's striking leaves a lot to be desired, even at this stage in her career. So if she's not securing takedowns, she probably loses this fight in a low volume striking affair. But I think that Yoder does get the takedowns. I think you watch that Kay Hansen fight, and those takedowns should be there for a wrestler of Yoder's ability. Pick is Yoder. Haven't bit the bullet on making a bet that yet, though. What about you?
Yeah, you got striker versus grappler. The problem with Jinyu Frey is that she is a good striker. She just hardly ever throws anything. You mentioned the Kay Hansen fight. She was winning the Kay Hansen fight, but her inability to grapple. And by the way, Kay Hansen's like 20 years old and very, very green. Tough, good girl, lots of potential. But, you know, you're losing to Kay Hansens of the world by a flying armbar in the third round. Like, it's not going to be a great career in the UFC. The Luka Bume fight, Luka Bume is also a natural 105-pound girl. And you see the strength advantage in there. It's just like, oh man, again, she lands 26 against Kay Hansen. She landed 26 against Luka Bume. And then she finally picked up her first win in the UFC, landing 24 significant strikes. So we can talk day and night about she's got that striking advantage. She doesn't throw it. I would actually say that even though she could definitely beat Ashley Yoder in a striking match, if Yoder's coming forward and Yoder's throwing, see, a lot of Yoder's strikes are not from distance. They're from the clinch, right? She likes to dirty box a lot of the time. She likes to press her opponent up against the cage, kind of working some short strikes. That would be a good path here, is that you've got someone that used to fight at 105 pounds in Jinyu Frey versus someone who's kind of big and strong for the weight class in Yoder. It's just, I just don't think Yoder is the same girl that she was even a few fights back. She is getting older. She's 33 years old, and she just doesn't seem like she's all that interested. Go back and watch, mind you, Angela Hill is Angela Hill. She's, you know, one of the top girls in the division. You can't take anything away from her. But the first time they fought, it's like Yoder's in it. You know, Yoder's getting those takedowns. Yoder's interested. Like, Yoder looks like she's going to progress. And then since then, it hasn't. So by the time they finally rematched, you saw the improvements that Hill made, and she was just far better version. Whereas like Yoder looked like she's starting to regress ever so slightly. I think that the path of victory in this fight is to make some of those takedowns, use the top control, out grapple her. It should be there for you. But, you know, if she keeps standing too long, Jinyu Frey should have a little bit of success. And with Frey, keep in mind, she did score a takedown over Luka Bume. She did score 2 takedowns in the last fight against Padula. Her husband, Douglas Frey, is a BJJ black belt. She spent a lot of time working on her ground game. I just think if she's on her back, it's not going to go particularly well. So, yeah, I got to go with Yoder as well. And the main thing here is that Yoder's had 9 fights in the UFC. All 9 of them have gone to decision. So she's a decision type fighter. She's not submitting you. You're not submitting him. She's not her. She's not submitting you or just knocking you out. It's the same thing. They're usually going to decision. Jinyu Frey's had 3 fights in the UFC, 2 of which have also gone to decision. And the fight with Kay Hansen's a 3rd round submission, right? This thing's going 15. Yeah. What do the judges like? What do the judges like? Do the judges like the 7 significant strikes landed in the round by Jinyu Frey? Mm-hmm. Or do they like Yoder was pushing her into the cage? Yoder didn't take her down. Or maybe she took her down once and Frey got up and landed a body kick. What are they looking at? I don't know. So this one feels like a dogger pass for the simple fact that it's going to decision and it's probably going to be a lot closer than you think. But I mean, the dog money is just not quite there. I mean, do I spend one on Jinyu Frey? I would really rather not. And the total's huge.
The total is juiced to the max. It's the widest total on the board at minus 420 to the over 2.5. Like they hats off to the books this week. They did a really good job. Of cutting out some of the opportunities to be had. All right, next up we got your boy Ronnie Lawrence taking on Trevin Jones. Ronnie Lawrence coming on pretty short notice here, filling in. All right, we got Lawrence is a minus 150 favorite. Jones can be had for plus 130. Trevin Jones didn't look very good on the regional scene tape. Didn't look very good in round 1 against Timur Valiev. He's up against the cage, eating body strikes, getting absolutely train wrecked. Like, it's just like eventually you're just thinking the end is near. Timur's gonna put this guy away. Round 2, pow, knocks him out. Absolute disaster. Next time up, he looked better in his next fight up, but and obviously, you know, Timur Valiev is a very, very credible opponent. But round 1, Mario Bautista, same thing. Mario Bautista is winning the exchanges, controlling much of the action, and then pow, round 2, lead uppercut to ground and pound, gets the finish. is this bantamweight death touch here? Because watching the tape, I know you love your boy Ronnie Lawrence.
Ooh,
Guy's grappling and pace is awesome.
Yeah.
Round 1 against Cachero, there's like an overhand right that Cachero throws, and it stuns your boy Ronnie for a second. So like I was, watching tape, just like, all right, we're gonna put an end to this Trevin Jones saga here. And then as soon as I saw that, I got stage fright. I just did not want to be part of Trevin Jones costing me more money in fights that I don't think he should have won. But shit, I mean, you knock a guy out in this sport, it changes in the drop of a hat. I like Lawrence. I think the skills that he has are his ability to control the fight, his ability to keep an insanely high pace. His striking leaves a lot to be desired, but he's going to be trying to get this fight to the mat, I would imagine, pretty much right out of the gate. I'm scared of the power that Trevin Jones has shown in his 2 fights in the UFC. So it's a straight up pass for me, but it's Ronnie Lawrence I'll pick on the money line.
Ronnie Lawrence better not let me down because, I got me some Ronnie Lawrence as well. I've been picking against some of my guys the last couple of weeks. I mean, we had Billy Q. Like, when do I not go with Billy Q? Son of a bitch. And then last time out with Nasruddin Imavov. You know me. I'm an Imavov guy. Like, why did I fade Imavov? Something must have been wrong with Heinisch, dude. He looked fucking off.
He did.
All the same. All the same, it's like I got to stop going against my boys. They're my boys for a reason. Cash tickets on these guys, and you always get a fair price tag on them. And Ronnie Lawrence, like, I'm super impressed with what I've seen from him. He cashed a nice underdog ticket on the Ultimate Fighter when he took on Jose Johnson, which I couldn't tell you why Jose Johnson was a favorite over Ronnie Lawrence, but 12 takedowns. And you see, he comes from a striking background. He's got good footwork, great kicks, loves that body kick as well. Very fluid, agile guy, but like the entries to those takedowns and just over and over, rinse and repeat. Started looking like he getting fatigued there a little bit by the end, and he just kept going right to those takedowns again. Super impressive stuff. He's young. He's blossoming up. His only pro losses to Steve Garcia, who eventually made it to the UFC. Pretty tough guy. And he's full-time out of American Top Team. And there's no doubt about it that he's starting to reap those benefits from being in such a talented room. Comes from that striking background, has that wrestling as well. Mixing it in together. He's a young prospect, nice, good-looking prospect. Vince Cachero fight, again, it's not exactly the most talented guy going, but 9 takedowns scored over him, right? 77 significant strikes. He absolutely styled on the man and then put him away for good measure in the 3rd round. Love the fact that his power translated. The cardio was still on point. The openings to the takedowns were there, and just work. Adequate striking, can strike, good ring IQ to take it where this guy's going to have the biggest problems. So, yeah, I love what I see out of Ronnie Lawrence. I'm always looking to cash tickets on Ronnie Lawrence. And in this spot, I'm going to do exactly that. I'm hoping Trevin Jones is more of a flash in the pan. I'm hoping he's more of a Abdul Razak Al Hassan or a Chaos Williams. Comes into the UFC, sparks 2 guys dead, and all of a sudden he's everybody's darling. Everybody wants to jump on him. He's the one that's actually coming in this fight on short notice, as Ronnie Lawrence is supposed to take on John Castellaneta. So I know that Ronnie's had a full camp, and Ronnie's got great cardio. Trevin Jones, he's coming in. And what do we give him? We give him that puncher's chance. The guy's got absolute dynamite. Bear with me on this one. This
Trevin Jones was supposed to fight last week, though, in fairness.
That's fair, right? So Trevin Jones, agree or disagree?
Trevin Jones, 24th.
Yeah, but agree or disagree? Trevin Jones has got just a tremendous amount of power, right? He's a big power puncher.
Seems that way. It seems that way.
Right. In 13 pro wins, he only has 3 wins by knockout, and that includes. Well, that includes actually the ones over Valio is a no contest. So he's got 1 over Batista's last time out, and 2 prior to the regional scene.
Valiev was a knockout. So that's
4
knockouts.
Yeah, because again, he was on the weed, right? Yeah. So it could have been stopped in the 1st round and nobody would be talking about it. But he's got mad resilience. He's never been knocked out. Of his 6 pro losses, he's dropped 5 decisions and been subbed ones. So that's his problem, is that he don't go away. And when the longer he stays in these fights, he's going to eventually catch you. But again, he makes his pro debut in 2011. Decision, next fight, decision, rear naked choke, decision, rear naked choke, wins 2 splits, loses a split, wins a decision, and then finally knocks out his first opponent, Jeremiah Labiano, who's actually pretty tough, by the way. And that's in 2016. So it took him 5 years before he ever knocked out an opponent. He knocked out 1 guy in 2017 and then hadn't knocked out anybody until 2020 when he resurfaced back into the UFC, or not resurfaced, but showed up in the UFC. So the guy looks like he can crack, no doubt about it. And I was all over Mario Batista. I thought Batista would make this guy look bad. And Batista looked really good early, but he eventually got caught. You know, it is what it is. You don't want to be playing too much with Trevin Jones and his power. But again, if you want to go look at it historically, he's not really the biggest power puncher going. It's just something his last 2 fights have happened to go his way. Against Lawrence, I'm a little bit worried because his head's a little bit in the air, chin's a little high, hands are a little bit low. But I think he's got the speed to move in and out, not hopefully take any risks, and then just shoot these takedowns, grind on this guy, peel him to the ground, work him over, try to make this a grappling match as long as you can. I believe that Trevin Jones is actually a black belt as well. So he's by no means a fish out of water off his back and will be defending a lot of this, but he tends to spend too much time on his back in these exchanges instead of just trying to explode to get back up. Even if he does explode to get back up, one thing we can have faith in Ronnie Lawrence is that he ain't going anywhere. He's just going to shoot back on the hips and try to do it again and again and again. He's young. He's improving. He's coming into his own. I can't turn my back on Ronnie. If Ronnie goes out there and loses, you know, that's my bad. Why do you have so much love for these guys? All he beat was Vince Cachero and Jose on the Ultimate Fighter. Jose is awful, by the way. Why have so much faith in this guy? But I think he's one of these guys that is heading in the right direction, making improvements, fighting the right level of opposition and improving. And when you fight at American Top Team, you know, you're getting rounds in the gym that are tougher than what you're going to fight in the actual octagon. In this case, you know, Trevin Jones is a badass. I can't take anything away from him, but I think this is a stylistical clash. His power punching boxing abilities versus Ronnie Lawrence's ability to mix in distance kicks into the takedown. That's what I'm hoping I get out of here.
How close to the top ticket is Ronnie going to be for you?
Yeah, I don't want to go all in and seriously blow myself one on Ronnie with a top ticket play. But again, you know what? It goes back to Adrian Yanez. The same shit happened last week with Yanez. He was a top ticket play. Him and Eubanks were the top ticket there. And people said the same thing with Adrian. They're like, man, he hasn't fought anybody. Who's he fought? He's coming off a win over Gustavo Lopez. Okay, what about before that? Oh, Rodriguez from Alaska FC. Okay. Anything else? It's like, yeah, okay, I suppose he hasn't really beaten anybody, but you can see the skills there, and you can see that this kid's a legitimate prospect. When I see Ronnie and I see him move, even if he was to get caught here, the guy's still going to be a legitimate prospect. He's still got a very bright future, and I think he just ties it together. What I did end up getting out of Adrian Yanez was one hell of a sweat for the first 4 minutes, because as it turns out, Costa had made a lot of improvements of his own, and this might be the same thing. Oh, shit. Ronnie's got stuffed those first few. Trevin's boxing him up. I just think that he's going to get on his bike, backpedal out, reset, compose himself, shoot that next one. So that's all I can hope about. Ronnie will be a second line ticket. I'm not going to have him on the top just because I don't want, if he lose, but if he was to lose, it's the second fight of the card. We could rebuild.
That's all I wanted to hear, Cody. That's all I wanted to hear. I was looking for a leg to add to Nicco Montano, and it's going to be Ronnie Lawrence. All right, finally, last fight, we've got Orion Kosi taking on Philip Rowe, minus 150 Kosi, plus 130 Rowe. Who you got?
Could be a live underdog shot here as well. I mean, if dogs are going to be barking on this fight card, then I don't see a reason why Philip Rowe shouldn't be able to. I actually like Orion Koski a lot better than I do Louis Koski, and that's basically pretty much on the sole premise of Louis Koski had finished all of his fights in the first round. So there was no way of knowing if he could fight beyond one single round because they were all first-round finishes, early first-round finishes. When he took on Sasha Plotnikov took a beating in that first round, maybe the first 3-4 minutes of that round, and then was able to turn the tide. All of a sudden, Koski's got terrible cardio. He's not quite there anymore. And even though he's got not a lot of natural advantages in this fight, he completely fell off a cliff and his game was no good. So Koski's got the potential of doing the same thing. Why I like him more is that he's at least seen the third round twice in Joseph Cropshot and Wally Wester. Both of them went to the third, and both of which he finished in the third. So if he's able to carry his cardio and his power throughout, he's going to be a lot stronger than Philip Rowe. He's going to have a wrestling advantage over Philip Rowe. The takedowns will be available for him. The power standing will be available for him. The thing is that Rowe's kind of durable, and he's tricky. He's a bit of a tricky guy. That's what's going to give him a lot of problems. First of all, standing, he's got an 80-inch reach, right? So that gives him effectively like an 8 or 9-inch reach advantage.
9-inch reach advantage.
Right. 9-inch reach advantage is pretty fucking significant. So huge. Even if Orion comes out there and is the biggest power puncher, this kid stays on the outside and lets you just walk into that jab, walk into those kicks, you're going to exert a lot of energy going forward the entire time. So let's say you do manage to take him down. Okay, fine. You do get that takedown, which I do believe should be on the table for him. He's been spending a lot of time working on his grappling. I mean, he was training under Jacques Souza and Rodolfo Vieira at Fusion XL. He's also been like going to professional grappling matches. His record looks bad. Oh shit, he lost to Cody Steele and Gabriel Checo. But again, that shows that he's competing and working on his craft. And Gabriel Checo is a middleweight who's a bona fide BJJ black belt. So yeah, you made it to overtime before you got armbarred. Cool. No problem. You also go back to say the Leon Shabazian fight, the Gabe Green fight. He hits sweeps in both of those fights and looks to be comfortable enough off of his back, throws up submissions and just causes you to work. And so that's where I think that he kind of could be considered a decent enough live underdog, is that the advantage is going to go to Orion early in that he's going to have a power advantage and he's going to probably take him down. But the longer this thing goes, I think that Rowe fights his way back into it. And I think that Rowe could give him a lot of problems. Last but not least, I did mention that Orion had better cardio than his brother because we'd seen him go to the third round. But look at that fight, a contender series against Matt Dixon, where he gets the third round crucifix TKO. Yeah. He slows down. He certainly slows down after the first. And that's all cause for concern type shit. He would then pull out of a fight versus Nick Dalby, where he was the one that pulled out, and now comes into this fight on a year-long absence. So live bet this after the first. If Rowe's still alive after the first, you're going to get a real nice plus money tag off him, or pre-bet it up dog or pass, or don't bet it at all, right? But I don't think I want to drink the Kool-Aid on Koski is all I'm saying.
I already that was my first bet that I made on the card. I took a plus 150 on Philip Rowe. I think plus 130 is fine. As you were mentioning, 9-inch reach advantage. Takedown defense is questionable, but when he gets to the mat, the grappling looks all right. He can get back to his feet, or he can throw up some submissions to at least make things dicey for Kosi. Kosi, frankly, only won that fight against Dixon on Contender Series because Dixon emptied the tank early on.
He was tired. He was
so gassed later on in that fight. I wasn't all that impressed by what I saw, so it's like he's going to have to go for takedowns early and often against Rowe. And then Rowe, long frame, long legs. He could probably give him some fits in terms of the grappling. It was the ground and pound crucifix that he was able to finish with. And frankly, it's because Dixon, really, really muscular guy, was just exhausted by the time they got deep into round 3 there. 9-inch reach advantage. It ain't pretty, but it should probably be a pick'em. So I think it's dog or pass. I've already got some action in on this. Do you see my boy Max Rauskopf fights this weekend?
No, I missed. Well, I heard he was coming back, but I didn't see it.
Cage
I assume he won.
Sunday.
I'm putting it right now. I'm assuming he fucking walked over the guy.
No, he's fighting. He's fighting this weekend.
He's fighting. Okay. Yeah.
I would say I haven't seen a line on it yet, but I'm sure I'll probably.
He is fighting Jeff Creighton. Yeah. I mean, if he quits, he quits. It is what it is, right?
He didn't quit, Cody. He didn't quit. He knew that wasn't his day, and he just. He lived to fight.
I like that answer.
Day.
I like that answer. The problem is that this is not a college wrestling match. This is a fight. People bet money on it. People have a certain expectation that you're going to go out and fight. But his answer actually made a ton of sense. He's like, dude, I'm on short notice. I'm gassed. I'm getting my ass kicked. And all I know is I'm going to go out here and get knocked out. What good does that do me? I'm just going to take this experience, go back to the drawing board. It's like, okay, fair. But we talk about guys, Darren Elkins, right? Darren Elkins is a dog play for us last weekend because he is willing to die to get the job done. And that is a character trait that you will not find in most human beings on this planet. So when you do find it and they give you plus money,
I've learned.
And sure enough, it's like that one actually went right to play. He got beat up in the first round. And as soon as Mounir quit in the second, Elkins was still there. Those are the kind of things we like to avoid. Rauskopf, this thing gets out of the first, probably do the same thing, right?
I used to call him a quitter. Up until this week, I discovered that what he actually did was courageous. Everyone wanted him, his corner. Everyone wanted to go back out there and get beaten up in round 3. But he's just like, no mas. I'll fight another day. And now he does. He fights on Sunday.
Yeah. Exactly. He did come back.
Anyway, so the bets I've got this week, I've got Chavez minus 105. I'm going to add that right now. I'm going to parlay our boy Rani and Montano. I don't know the numbers of that yet because I have to make that play. I have Philip Rowe. I got him at plus 150. And then I have Baghdasaryan, Anglin. Fight doesn't go the distance, plus 120. And under 2.5 rounds, plus 130. I just think at worst, that's a 50-50 proposition. They're all pretty small bets. Hopefully we'll have a little bit more aggressive plays next week. But when I look at
Can I clarify something?
When I look at this card, it just feels like a small bet type of situation. I don't really trust or love anything that I'm doing on it.
Right at the bottom here, you just got that Orion Koski versus Philip Rowe. It's you got it over as a 1.5, but the under is listed as a 2.5. Did you know
what it was listed on DraftKings Sports?
It was, Abe. Okay. So Orion Koski, all of his wins are inside the distance, and Philip Rowe, all of his wins are also inside the distance, and they're giving you plus 145 on the under 2.5. Fuck yeah, baby! Like either Koski goes out there and lands in the first, or he gets tired and gets subbed. Like.
You like that?
Plus 145, under 2.5, plus 145. Now the guy's never won a decision.
It's 1.5. It's 1.5.
Okay. I was gonna say if that's for real, like that immediately jumps out at me.
No, that's a typo that literally only us could see.
Okay.
On this program,
yeah,
because I wrote it on the sheet.
No
the
problem.
1.5 is what it's actually totaled to. The board says 1.5 rounds. So don't get too excited. If it was 2.5 rounds, then I can see the excitement there.
Yeah, that's true. You know, last week what we noticed as well is, let me just bring it up. It's a pretty crazy stat, but last week it ended up being just an absolute tremendous card from a live betting standpoint, right? Is that most of these guys that ended up losing the first round ended up coming back. So I guess I guess it would start off with Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen gets beat up in that first round, makes a nice comeback, huge live money opportunity for him. Adrian Yanez, I never saw it get to plus money, but you could still have him at minus 125 after the first round, where he took all of Acosta's best shots. It looked like he was turning the tide with the last 45 seconds. That was a great spot. Technically speaking, Maycee Barber, you could have her at plus 1,000 after the second round, plus 1,000.
Yeah, but when you're down 2 rounds, you're not going to make that bet because you're betting things that you don't believe. It's crazy.
Okay. But just to recap, Brandon Allen loses the first, comes back, huge plus money chance. Yanez loses the first, pretty solid, almost even money chance.
Yeah, the Allen would have been a good opportunity.
Maycee Barber loses the first, comes back. You wouldn't have known about that one. Darren Elkins loses the first. You knew that was going to happen. Huge, nice plus money cash there after the first. And then again, I didn't fucking know this one was going to happen, but Rolian Pava got 10-8'd in the first round.
That was another one that absolutely screwed me.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I think the line on that fight was actually still completely fine. I saw a lot of people saying that the value side was Pava. It's just man, the guy almost died in round 1. Did you really think he was going to and I even had on my notes last week, I'm like, minus 300 might be a little, and I ended up still adding them to parlays. But it's just I was like, maybe, just maybe, because we'd seen this from Phillips before. Maybe, just maybe, there's a little bit less matrix shit, a little bit less craziness in round 1. And he conserves that gas so he can win round 2. And he emptied the tank in round 1. So it is what it is.
Yeah,
but the guy's so talented, he's gotta dial it back a notch. I think he's a super talented guy. He's got a lot of promise moving forward, but I mean, he's got to either improve that cardio to the point that he's able to fight at that pace for 2 rounds, or maybe a little bit less spinning shit, a little bit less of this, a little bit less of that, and be able to fight because he's super, super talented. But
I'll tell you,
the cardio cannot withstand that pace for 15 minutes. Its proof is in the pudding at this point.
No, and I'll tell you one thing. I was extremely impressed, even though he fought a terrible game plan. He overexerted himself in the first. All the spinning shit. It's like, man, what the hell? Still should have got a 10-8. Don't get me wrong. Was not a knockdown by Pava, man. That left hook didn't fucking drop him. He slipped. Regardless, is what it is. But one thing I will admit is he got dead dog tired and he fought right through. In fact, in the third round, he fucking looked a lot better in the third round than he did in the second, despite being gassed. The biggest thing is this guy's body shutting down. Pava is all the confidence in the world. Pava's moving him back. Pava's landing some big strikes. And this guy's wrestling, which he opted not to really use in the first round. Man, it was good. Why not wrestle more? Why not go out there and shoot a few takedowns in the first and mix in a little bit of good striking? Instead, it was spinning wheel kick shit. I'll admit, dude, that elbow straight down the middle, that right hand, counter right hand, singular shot, but all the same, you know, the guy's movement, the guy's athleticism. I'd be willing to bet him next time out and just hope that John Crouch and team put a better game plan together and that he learns from this. However, I'd be willing to bet on Pavla as a bantamweight too. Like, dude wasn't going anywhere. No. They could have stopped it in the first, you know, if the 10-second clapper doesn't go, they probably do stop it. But yeah, man, like this guy's another one of those guys that's willing to die out there for you. He's never been finished outside of that cut stoppage against Bontarine. There's actually a lot that you can like from him. So even though I was bummed, it should have been a 10-8 round. You know, not his fault at all. But that's not within his. You know, Macy Barber, I don't know why I blamed it on her. There was a bad judge's decision. It's like, fuck you, bitch. I don't know why. It has nothing to do with her. But she was like, damn right I won that fight. It's like, what?
Yeah, you know, what do you expect fighters to do when they go into that? They're in front of the media. They're not going to be like, yeah, I think I lost. Maybe I should give back my win bonus.
You're right. No, you never say that. The only person that's ever like really said that was who was your guy? He lost to man, why do I forget these fucking names now? Who's the greatest Polish fucking fighter of all time, not named Jan Blachowicz? Little 45er. He's a 55er now. Stud. Undefeated. Lost one fight to Kudlitz. Yeah, your guy Kudlitz, right? That was the only guy I've seen ever been like, yeah, I didn't win that fight, man. And Joe Lozon versus Marcin Held. Same thing. Outside of that, you're 100% right. You generally go out and be like, hey, the judges, I agree with what the judges thought. There's a difference between like showboating it with the hands in the air and just being like, yeah, man, that was a tough fight. Got to go back to the drawing board. Got to check it out. You know, Corey Sandhagen loses, okay? And it's so close. It's a very razor thin margin. And fans are very upset about it. And they're screaming from the rooftops that Corey Sandhagen got robbed. And then Corey Sandhagen comes out and his statement on the record is, really good fight. Small little mistakes cost me that and gave TJ the win. I'll be back. Wow. Talk about a great way of looking at it. He's not saying, man, I got robbed. Yeah. Man, I showed that I won.
He expected like, hey, himself man. To do better so that there was no question whatsoever.
Yeah, and that this kid's only going to continue to get better. TJ, yeah, this is his moment in the sun. You know, the exact same thing happened to TJ when he fought Dominic Cruz. Cruz was coming off a 2-year-long layoff. Cruz needed to win a lot more at that time than TJ did. And even though it's close, even though I thought TJ won, well, Cruz ended up getting the decision and his career advanced. Fair enough. That's the ebbs and flows of the game. TJ's running out of time. He had a 2-year-long suspension. He needed this win to vault him into another top 5 matchup or maybe even a title fight, depending on if Aljamain decides to fake an injury, which I think he's going to do. So maybe you'll get a TJ versus Jan fight. Jan's going to walk through TJ. But all the same, he really did need this win to advance himself at this stage of his career. Whereas Corey Sandhagen, like his stock shot up. This is fine. This is no problem. He's 27 years old. You know how many more times he's going to have opportunities? A ton more times. Unfortunately, from a betting perspective, it's like, you know, when you lose money on something that you disagree with, it's always a bitter pill to swallow. But you and I understand how this shit goes. And you could very well easily have bet in TJ Dillashaw at plus 165 and did Corey you know what we drummed the entire show last week was that we both took Sandhagen and we both strongly disagree with the price tag. How'd that fight play out? You think Corey Sandhagen win? Fine. That is a legit opinion. Very legitimate opinion. Did you think Corey Sandhagen looked like a 2-1 favorite in there, Paul?
It was probably close.
It was so close. It was a 50-50 fight down the line, man. It was a close fight.
I think it was probably more like 60-40.
Minus 120.
Which would have been minus 150. Would have been value on Sandhagen. So there was the value side was Dillashaw. I will agree. Yeah, he ended up
cashing. If people spam dog tickets there, they'd have cashed and they'd be extremely happy with it. If you went with the favorite on Corey Sandhagen and it was close and the judges didn't get it right, you're upset. But it's like that's why there's considered a money side to a lot of these spots. And you know, this card is going to be exact same way. Even though I'll hit you with the PRP right now, though I think I'm only taking 3 of the underdogs, there's a lot of money spots. So I got Sean Strickland. I'm going to go with Rani Yahya as dog number 1. I'm going to go with Cheyanne buys, but the money side of things is Paula. I'm going to go with Niklas Stolze, but the money side of that would be Gooden. We're going to go with Adashev. That's officially our dog number 2. We're going to go I'll go Bryan Barberena, but it's such a bad gut feeling there. We're going to go Nicco Montano. We're going to go with Melsik Baghdasaryan. We're going to go with Rafa Garcia. We're going to go with Danny Chavez, which is like slightly dog number 3. Ashley Yoder, Ronnie Lawrence, and Philip Rowe is dog number 4. So currently now it's what, a 13 fight offering. We're going to go with 4 underdogs. But I mean, there's definitely a couple money sides, good value sides, prices that I just don't quite agree with on this card. There's going to be some apple pie shitters. So let's just try to keep this one tight.
It's just not a great card at the end of the
day.
Mix
it in with some of the Bellator. Exactly.
Bellator's got a better offering, frankly.
Fucking right it does.
This week.
Goddamn
and Cody,
right. Glad you noticed
Are you going to be breaking down that on your own channel this week?
Yeah, that's the plan. I mean, let's be real. This is actually a much better card than the UFC card. The headliner between Patricio Pitbull versus AJ
Yeah, we don't have to go through the fights. They can check it out.
No, I know. Yeah, for sure. I'm just saying that could headline any card, any fight night card for the UFC. It's a tremendous fight. But yeah, I mean, it's just chock full of guys. The main card is actually a lot better than this. Even on the undercard, you've got Georgi Karahanyan, Bryan, well-traveled veteran. Kasan Magomed Sharipov, like, how scary this guy's going to be. This Gadzi Robinov. Yeah. Bellator knows what they're doing. Yeah. Scary Russian, mid guy from, not even mid-level, lower mid-level guy from the Midwest.
Yep.
Hopefully not the Pacific Northwest.
That's the product. That's the product. I mean, it's a good card for them this week.
The UFC
and the UFC almost kind of threw in the towel this week in terms of like they're not putting up the big guns. The big guns fight next week. UFC 265. It's 265 next week, right? We'll be breaking that all down for you. So yeah, that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For Cody Saftic and Pat Mayo, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.
Oh, oh, oh.